Hey Collective, it's Alan coming to you with a video that will be accompanying a piece I'm releasing on LinkedIn surrounding the topic of Sam Altman, and kind of an opinion that I had subconsciously gained at some point along my journey that wasn't possibly the most positive expression of my opinion of him. And so with time marching on and so forth, I suddenly found myself realizing that the opinion of someone else may have clouded my judgment as to really taking a really hard look at him. And I kind of felt like it was a disservice. So I wanted to do a written piece on LinkedIn that surrounded a loving, supportive, compassionate kind of approach to Sam, especially considering all of the things that he's gone through in recent months surrounding the board and all of that whole being fired thing and then being rehired and kind of all that stuff. And I wanted to do something that was a lot more community driven and kind of speak to the beauty that I find with his character, and maybe address kind of it from a different lens, which is much more spiritual and much more objective. And what I basically found is that Sam is a very interesting personality trait. He's very grounded in the 3D and is an incredibly important figure for the annals of our history, and you'll see that as time marches on. But one of the things that's very interesting about Sam is that he is the perfect, in my opinion, person to hold that particular position at OpenAI because of the CEO title. And so I found him to be very, very much the right fit for that particular functionality. But one of the things that I noted in the written piece is that I don't really feel like there's anything, he's not the enemy. I don't feel like there's anything really off about him. I just feel like any good leader, he needs a support team around him that has a more public-facing aspect to it, that deals with the topics that maybe he doesn't see as valuable from a different perspective in order to help him better understand what the tension is that surrounds him right now. And a lot of it has to do with just basically life experience. It's the difference between being book smart and being street smart. Someone can be super analytical and be the most brilliant of mind. I mean, Nikola Tesla went through this, Einstein went through this. A lot of people have gone through this, where their vision is so crystal clear and it is exactly in right alignment where we need to go. But there are a lot of other factors that play a part that they are not aware of until they step into doo-doo. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you take the steps, you're just focused on your tunnel vision, you're trying to get the baby to start walking, talking of its own accord. In this case, it would be AI, and you're trying to follow your own due diligence in order to make sure that it's streamlined and the quirks are taken out of it. And that you see what I'm saying? Like, you're so focused, hyper-focused on just getting the baby to start walking for the first time that you don't really pay attention to what happens after that. And it's not like I don't think he purposely comes across as sidestepping topics. It's more like he's on the inside and has insider information as to how far away that is for us. But the rest of us don't know that because there's no regulatory system in place and we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. And in fact, many of us are not engineers and a lot of us don't understand what the programmers are doing, and we don't understand basically the regulations or the rules that are in place under OpenAI. And so there's a lot of questionability as to what happens with it in the future. And when he makes comments like AI in and of itself is not dangerous, it's how people use it. And it kind of just keeps going as though that's not a big red flag to the rest of us, going, well, hold on, go back. Now let's dive deep into this conversation. What do you mean by how they can use it? And then going through the specifics. That's something that a PR person might be of service for him, or an analyst could be of service to him, but it's not something that's part of his norm. And that's kind of the point of the piece. I don't think that Sam by any means is the enemy of the people. I feel like he's just doing something that he knows will inevitably work out for humanity. But he's skipping over things that he may not find a lot of merit in because it's not part of his life experience. And one of the things I wanted to say is that that's a great opportunity for his team and all of them to restructure themselves in a way that's a lot stronger to take hits. Because one of the things that I found most interesting about my deep dive into Sam is that he genuinely was surprised at the power move that happened in him being fired. And if I would have been in his life, I would have been like, how did you not see that coming? You are working on something that is going to revolutionize the world. You have everyone from the most altruistic people invested into what you're doing to the most corruptive influences on planet Earth. And they're all going to be coming after you the closer you get to the prize. So how is it that your team was blindsided by this? And at the end of the piece, if you read the written post on LinkedIn, you will find that that was the end thing, which was you need to bring people on now that are supportive of you, but that are going to watch your blind side, which is anything that your life experience is not used to. You don't understand maybe possibly the complications to, even though people want the idealized expression of a job that they love, we still have to survive. And in the interim between the dream being manifested and the deployment of it, there's going to be some people who are going to build a nasty retaliatory response to you and OpenAI and the general population, because they're going to be mad that they somehow got displaced in the journey. And so when people do like a sidestep over it, or not even intentionally sidestepping, I feel like he's more like just, he knows the timing of things, and so he's not paying too much mind to the concern that's growing with the population that is novice and does not understand it. He doesn't understand the sheer amount of tension that is built around him because he is in his bubble. All of them are in their bubble. And what they understand is they understand the engineering aspect of it. They understand all of the things that they're specifically supposed to do. But the variables that exist that are unseen is where the population is starting to get antsy. And it's one of the things that happens when he speaks is that people find it to be a little alarming that someone will say something like to the effect of like he did with, I can't remember which of the interviews, because there were 3 interviews that were all vying for this particular post. I was going to be commenting, originally it was going to be on Trevor Noah's podcast because I love Trevor Noah. He's very like rah-rah about AI, and I find that to be really great, especially because it's creating such a fear response for most people. I find his approach to be really, really great. And then I even looked at the one where he talked to Lex Friedman, and I was maybe considering using that one until I realized that the body posturing of Sam at the time, it was so fresh and raw what he had gone through that I just felt it wasn't the right alignment for what the tone would be for my piece, because I just felt like he felt almost wilted, and it was like he was trying to heal from the trauma. And so I finally settled on Joe because Joe can make anything fucking amazing. Rogue is Rogue, you know. He likes to stir the pot, but he also has clear intention and he has good intentions for humanity. So I ended up settling on Joe. But along the journey, one of the things that I noticed that was interesting about Sam is that he has this way of touching on a topic almost superfluously. And so he'll say something that's really remarkable, like AI is not dangerous, it's how people use it. And then just continue going and almost like relieving anyone of accountability as to what that might mean. Meanwhile, the rest of us are going, hey, trigger, wait, fear response, hold on a second. What exactly do you mean that it's how it's being used? So are you saying that this can actually be used to terrorize humanity? Do you see what I'm saying? By not taking that breath and not having the voice on his team to go, you might want to go and explain a little bit more in detail to alleviate the fire that is building, because of the fact that you may not have giving it much credit at the moment because it's such a foreign thing to you. But the reality is that you said something in a cancel culture society that triggers people into a fear response, and fear, whenever fear is involved, fuck reason, like it's just gone. You know what I mean? And so people are going to have a negative reaction, right? Because they were genuinely surprised by the fact that this whole thing played out, and I'm just like, okay, you need to add people like me and other people that are just street savvy that can go, no, this is going to happen increasingly more and more as you get closer to the end prize. And you just need to make peace with that, and you need to stabilize the organization in a way where you have people who watch your back end. And what I mean by that is to take a further step even closer to the edge here. I remember at one point he made a comment about the fact that there's no regulation over it. And the implication by the end of the particular segment of the interview was that it wasn't his responsibility, or it wasn't the responsibility of AI to worry about the regulatory system over it, and it is up to the government, even though neglecting the fact that some of the governments are themselves corrupt and can actually hurt humanity. So it creates a system that is kind of unnerving to other people, and it feels like it's falling heavily on Sam, even though I don't really feel like Sam is willfully ignorant. I just don't think that he has the time, nor the expertise, or the energy to factor in all of the anomalous information that could play out. And he needs people that do that for him in order to then have an honest conversation with him about what are the real concerns that the people are facing and what is the backlash that will happen during job displacement, whether or not it's a specific field or another field, it doesn't matter. It's still going to be people, many of whom never asked for AI to be developed at all to begin with and already have a negative response to it, not seeing the vision as clearly as they do. So they already have a built-in resentment to the system. They're being involved in something that they never asked for. And this is something by a bunch of people who want to, in their opinion, who want to be cool and want to be noted in history for bringing this into the world. Meanwhile, it costs people jobs down the road. even though we understand the trajectory of where it's going and the beauty and all of the harmony that can come from it and how it can redefine the way that we live our lives, there's still an interim that is going to be traumatic to people, and that's another wave that they need to be ready for. So he made a comment about after the initial being fired and then being hired back, one of the things that he's now focused on is stabilizing the organization to ensure that whether he's involved or not, having learned the lesson, that he could be removed at any time to make sure that his team and the product and the vision still goes forward. And one of the things I wanted to say with this particular piece is we endeavor with you on that, but you're going to have to maybe bring in other people. You're going to need a business analyst, someone who can look at how it's going to affect the business market and what that does to job functionality. And then you're going to have somebody who's very, very apt on PR, someone who understands the legalities of what happens if something goes wrong and someone uses it in the wrong way with your stuff. What are the law requirements in each country? I mean, there's like so much that plays out in a very short succession of time that people are cautioning Sam on, but he's so focused on what he needs to be doing right now that it's almost like he's almost unaware of the growing sheer backlash that is coming towards him if these things are not built into the foundational stone. Meaning, we get that it's up to the regulatory system of each nation and so forth in order to kind of govern this stuff. But when you bring something to market that can hurt the livelihood of other people without already having the built-in foundation of support for the unemployment and so forth, where it's just an idea, even though you're bringing product to market, then what you're creating is an automatic tension-built backlash that's going to whip you worse than what happened before. And then they really will come towards you. And one of the things that I've learned about Sam is he's incredibly open to other people's ideas, and he's incredibly open to better systems of operations, and he's willing to test anything, but you need to bring it to him. And he needs to be able to understand why it's a viable interest to him and why it's time that he needs to take out of his day for it. Because if you can do that, then I feel like Sam is the first person who'll be like, oh, okay. All right. So what's the data research? Let me put some money into this. Okay. So the concern here is about what job. Okay. So what can we do to cross-section these people? Stuff like that. It's just stuff that maybe isn't as readily in front of him because Sam understands the timeline. He's on the inside. He knows how far these problems are from where we are right now, but the world does not. And it's causing a lot of friction. And the closer he gets to the end result of what he's seeking, and even worse when he goes towards actually getting AGI. The moment that happens, every corrupt politician, every corrupt individual is going to be going after the organization, is going to be going and seizing power in order to get Sam either out of the way because he is moralistic and he does really believe in the mission, and he's trying to do it, from what I can tell, the best way he knows how. But without the support team around him, it leaves him in a very vulnerable state, something that we witnessed firsthand with this past event, which is why I'm even getting involved in the conversation at all. I don't like scapegoating. I do not like it. And there's so many hands in these pies and so much going on behind the scenes. I just don't want Sam to be the one that's held liable for everything. But there's also a part of me that's wondering, why isn't there someone on his team that is setting him aside and being like, hey, this is a pattern that you will see over and over and over again, and we need to have a much stronger defense in place in order to protect our staff and protect our vision and protect our team. That's part of the organization. Being part of the nonprofit world is you have to have the parent shall stand of its own accord and be able to withstand infinite pressure from some of the most corruptive people on planet Earth, and you need to be able to be uncorruptible. That takes a lot of concerted effort from outside eyes looking in at the pie and going, okay, you keep working on what you're working on. All of your team needs to keep working on what they're doing, but you need 2 new team members who specifically are built in strategy, PR, analytics, and projections. And they need to be a think tank, and they need to be from different parts of perspectives, different life experiences, because the interaction that ChatGPT is having is with the wider audience. It's with a bunch of different demographics. It needs to be diverse. It needs to have spirituality. It needs to have atheism. I mean, it has to have a lot of different perspectives and life experiences focus on your back end to ensure that your team and you and the vision continue forward no matter what comes at you. And that's really what I wanted to do with the piece. It wasn't about questioning Sam. I honestly really don't think he's the enemy of the people. I just think that his area of special concern is what he's working on. And he's exactly the right person for that job functionality. But with this, with each level comes new devils. And he needs to have people, in my opinion, that will watch his back and ensure that there's a camaraderie and a trust between the 2 or 3 or 4 or however many people are going to be involved, that literally he can look at and go, okay, you're telling me this and you're like getting angry about it. I need to pay attention to like why you're having this response. Because remember, if it's your internal team and they're watching your back and they're getting agitated around you, that means that they're sensing a backlash growing from the community that they represent. Remember, we talk and work and operate with what we know and what we experience. So don't alienate the people who come from different perspectives to the pie that is growing exponentially, because it's just going to get more and more complicated. It's not going to get easier and easier. The closer we get and the more people start to feel fear, the more tension it builds. Then there's the people who are corrupted and who want to seize power from you because they know that you are moralistic, and they know if they want to get more dividends on the end, they need to get you out of the picture. This is all stuff that may not be part of your norm every day, but for a person who's lived on, has gone through hell and high water, it's par for the course. No difference in life experience other than just the experiences themselves. No one's better or worse is what I'm trying to say than the other person. It's just different skill sets. Again, the reason why we hire CFOs is because they're specialized in finances for your company or your organization. That's their whole task. And the reason we hire PR people is because they understand the value of what public image means, and it needs to be a stable person who understands the back end and what's the front end. And they need to be able to understand how to interact with them and how to also answer questions relating to things that the CEO or other people who are minding their own business are suddenly asked, thrown into the public eye. They suddenly say something, and the world goes, ah! Well, you need someone who then goes, okay, well, here, come here, what? What are you ahhing about? You know what I mean? And handles it in a very stable way and takes some of the pressure off of the CEO from having to try to do everything. Because I feel like that's going to be exceedingly taxing and very, very exhausting to anyone involved in the team right now. And then they have the whole new board and this whole thing that I'm not going to get into because I have no understanding, I have no education on how that works. All I know is I'm watching it from the outside, and there are incredible pitfalls that I can see clearly that lay in wait for this particular endeavor. And it's important to surround yourself with people who aren't fear-mongering, but are realistic about what may or may not happen and what is the best approach from their lens to resolving the issue and nipping it in the bud before it becomes a catastrophe or a big problem like it was recently, right? If you mitigate it before it happens, then everybody wins because everybody's on the same page and they're like, yeah, no, Al told you it was coming. Or, whoever it is on your team, well, she said that this was a probability, and so you already have a battle plan, so let's implement that battle plan. You've grown to a point now where it's not just you guys trying to get to market or whatever it is. It's now your baby starting to walk and talk and interacting with the people. Are there indemnities? What are the problems? What are the regulatory systems? Can some nations use it to declare war on their people? These are all things that need to be factored in as you build a foundation and you restabilize the organization after this most obvious form of attack, if you will. These are all things that are part of just the growing model of something that's scaling up. But this particular project is super important and can go a million different ways wrong. And the closer you get to preparing yourself mentally and the company together in a common vision of how to approach these things, the better everyone's going to be and the better everybody's going to feel around you, right? Because public safety is going to be a massive issue as time moves on. And there's no greater way to seize power from another person than to claim that you didn't follow proper due diligence. So instead of being vulnerable to that, hire the right people, in my humble opinion, that will watch your ass and be like, okay, this is what I see about to happen, right? This public figure just took aim at Sam or just took aim at us and has a major problem with XYZ. This is going to have a ripple effect. What is our response to this? Taking the pressure off of Sam and the other executive board trying to do everything themselves. They need to just have new lenses brought into the conversation so as to safeguard the entity as a whole. and make the shareholders, in my opinion, feel a lot more secure and safer. Remember, from what I understand from the whole dynamic, I could be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, they hired him back. They went, no, you come back here. And then he came back. If it would have been me, I'd been like, fuck y'all. Nope. I'm going to go do my own thing. But he's the bigger man. Again, part of his character attestation. And so one of the things that you guys can do, in my humble opinion, and be part of the community, is to understand that people are going to say shit about other people. And it's going to take each of us to actually take a step back and really look at the person and go, he's not a menace to society. He may be a little naive at times, but hello, part here too. Naive as can be. I step in it all the time, and you do too. And so you understand how to be compassionate toward other people, because this venue, this particular agenda, this particular journey is so revolutionary. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to try to seize it and use it for the wrong reasons. And the only way we can mitigate that, and the only way we can deal with it, is to come together, figure out a regulatory system and all the other stuff. But even if it's not your responsibility as an open AI, you still have the opportunity to be better prepared to stabilize your own structure, your own entity, and to watch your own ass. And that, in my opinion, is to bring other people into the equation that specifically deal with the unseen. One of the things I've noticed with AI in general is that it's very grounded into 3D. It's very scientific and engineering driven. It's very factual. But one of the things that happens with that is it neglects in its development the non-natural, meaning external influences. And when that begins to pile up, it begins to sound the alarm towards the people around you. Because there are things that we can see clearly. For example, we saw the attack, we saw the possibility of you being fired and all of that power grab happening way before you did. And the question is, well, why did we see it and you didn't? And the reason is because you, like Sam said, he's been in a storm before. He's just never been he hasn't been the eye of the storm. He's been observing of a storm, but he's never actually experienced it until now. And now that he's experienced being the storm, he understands that there's going to be a different way that he's going to need to approach this moving forward, because it's just going to get just rougher and rougher at times, and it's going to be a lot of challenges and a lot of things that are going to come up because the population is interacting with this, and it adds a possibility of kind of screwing up other people's lives. And there is already so much tension in our planet and in our world that we're adding something that can be pretty explosive. And if we don't get ahead of the curve, then you leave the organization, yourself, and everyone involved with AI super vulnerable. It's not so much that we're just going to hold you accountable, but it's what are the ramifications to if we don't better prepare. And instead of sidestepping conversations where it's like, oh, it's too far down the road, remember, we don't know where you are on the timeline because nothing is being done in front of the camera. Everything is being done behind the camera. So as far as we're concerned, all of these dangers are tomorrow. And no one has stopped to break it down for us in a way that makes sense to us. The last person who tried has just lost his fucking mind. I don't know what's going on with him, but the public is now like, I'm not trusting you either. So you're going to have to maybe possibly consider, I love that I'm maybe possibly consider. You're going to have to consider the fact that you're going to have to approach this differently because the baby's growing. And if you get closer and closer to AGI, as I'm understanding it, the closer you get to that, the more complicated it becomes. And instead of waiting until the fire breaks out, why not get rid of the ambers before they happen and have protocol and things in place and have done the research to help you better assess how to handle it in the time without making it a crisis, right? Who wants a crisis? Why have the drama? If you can mitigate the drama, then everybody wins. And that's kind of the message I wanted to leave with this. So in the end, I am a complete supporter of Sam as far as I know. I don't know him personally. I'm just going by what I've done in a deep dive through the 3 interviews and kind of some of the more superfluous stuff that I've kind of looked at and kind of studying him. And though I don't know him as a person, I do understand him as a leader. And the fact that his team rallied around him so vehemently is a really great testament to his leadership style. But like any great leader, he needs a support system that is brought in that is watching the blind side. It's watching the back end. That's super important to any organization. And so if you guys really are involved in the process of trying to stabilize it and make sure that stuff like that just recently happened doesn't happen again, you're going to have to then start really addressing the concerns of other people, because every interview that I've seen with Sam, all of them have said the same thing. It's a consistent stream of thought that keeps coming at you guys, at Sam, but it's almost like he's not registering that is the flare-up that's to come. It's almost like, well, it's so far in the future, why are you all worried about it? But we don't know where you are in timeline. And that's where the tension is growing. And that's where I want to leave it. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope it made sense, and I hope you enjoyed the piece. Once again, I don't know Sam personally, but I don't feel like he's the villain. I feel like if anybody's the villain, it's just all of us not being more watchful about what's going on, and then also realizing that, people try to scapegoat other people. And it's going to take us as a community to ensure that we don't allow that to happen, where it's just one person holding the bag when there's so many people with their hand in the cookie jar. It's just a reality check. And I don't have no vested interest in OpenAI or any of it. I don't fear it. I don't like it. I don't dislike it. It is what it is. It's something that I necessarily didn't want. I didn't think we needed it. I thought humanity needed to evolve itself. But if this has an opportunity, if this has the possibility to really be beneficial to society, and we're on that track, then the least we can do is support each other in the endeavor to make sure that it's the safest, most reliable thing for humanity. And that's where I want to leave it. Bye, guys.